Hi Alex, great to meet up with you and do a little bit more work on your game. Obviously it's been a while, I've been working on a few little things. Just thought it'd be appropriate to give you a quick recap on the points that we discussed. First thing we did, we moved the weight forward at P1, courtesy of adding flex to the lead knee. So the feeling is that you're just leaning that left leg down the toe line, adding a bit of flex to the lead knee. This helps you extend the trail leg as it's already just preset a little bit, creates substantially less axis tilt throughout various stages of the swing, but certainly at P1 just levels everything up and also helps you gain a little bit differential between the knees, which is sometimes lacking when viewed down the line. So from face on, we just changed P1 slightly, so the feeling here is 80-20, courtesy of adding flex to the lead leg. In the backswing, we spoke about your transition and how from 4 to 5, we didn't want the shaft to get quite as near to the trail shoulder. So the feeling was that we kept the shaft away and that we almost ulnar deviated. That would be the feel. I'll get some footage up of you demonstrating that. So trying to feel that the shaft is away from the shoulder in transition. You see the 4 to 5 creating a little bit less lag. As a result, there's a little bit less dorsiflex in the lead wrist. The wrist was also flatter at P4. One of the things we noticed was that as you worked on that sort of different load, if you will, from 4 to 5 in the wrists, you started to load differently from P1 to P3. So it's almost in anticipation of what's about to come. You can see there at P3, it's a little bit more with the body, substantially more with the body, a little bit less with the arms and wrists. More turning, extending, side bending, not creating quite as much lag in transition, which means the club face's relationship to the path is a little bit easier to maintain. We can see there the impacts of that change at P1 as well in regards to the lead knee, pelvis being further forward. And because you're into the ground a little bit sooner, you don't have to stay in the ground for quite as long. You can start to push up, so you were getting that sensation of tucking underneath. You can see the lead wrist, the overtaking rate is starting to reduce, mainly because of the change in wrist conditions 4 to 5. P8 happening substantially later, and again that's a byproduct of what we talked about at P1, P4 to P5, and also that little bit of pressure point 5 work that we did. So I'm just going to get you up down the line now and get you demonstrating the feel in transition. Okay, so start the session P3 on the left. Trail knees trying to straighten and then starts to flex a little bit more, and we get a little bit cupped with the lead wrist. And as we've seen from face on, as we transition, we get very much sort of lagged. The wrist starts to dorsiflex and the club face opens to the path. On the right here, you're demonstrating the feel. You can see there much more extension of the trail leg, changing flex of the knees, pelvic tilts are better, etc., etc. The feel here is that you keep the structure of the arms the same, but uncock the wrists from 4 to 5. So that's the feel. Everything else is moving at the same rate. I don't want to accumulate a 1 and 4 working differently, but we just want to feel like we're uncocking the wrists a little bit more. So ulnar deviation from 4 to 5, giving you a completely different look. Is it going to look like that in real terms? No. Do we need a little bit of that adding to the image that we see on the left? 100%. We also talked about how you would tend to, in an attempt to ulnar deviate late, flatten out the wrist late, you would start to lose pressure point 5 a little bit. So as you lose pressure point 5, the pivot stops, or as the pivot stops, you lose pressure point 5, etc., etc. Club face becomes a little bit too unstable, and potentially you get the two-way miss in there. So with a setup of 80-20, courtesy of the lead knee, we've got the cover now under the mid bicep of the trail arm. You're going to see a substantial difference in P4, certainly from P3 to P4. The way you complete the backswing changes dramatically in this footage. So we just stop it at 3, go from 3 to 4. You can already see the difference in the knees. You can now see the difference in the lead wrist, the trail leg, the lead leg, etc. When you now transition, because of the work with pressure point 5, which is the external rotation of the trail arm, trail shoulder, and the added change to the wrist conditions, you start to see the shaft hit you on more mid bicep as opposed to trail shoulder. So therefore we are shallower earlier, which means we don't have to shallow it as much from 5.5 to 6. So even though you're shallower earlier, the sweet spot is actually more in line with the hands at 6 than it was before. As you come into impact, you're substantially more open with the body. Arm alignments are a little bit more as you would want them. Right arm a little bit more supinated, and the pivot is more continuous. So consequently the club face becomes a little bit more stable. The exit's always pretty good. You always tend to put a little bit of turn in there a little bit later, but you can see the difference in the club face position coming through in your exit. So to summarise, P1, 80-20, courtesy of the lead knee. P4 to P5, keeping the shaft away from the trail shoulder, not adding as much down cork or lag, which would then in turn improve your wrist conditions and consequently your face to path relationship. And then maintain pressure point 5, practicing with a head cover so that it's more pivot led as opposed to pivot stalling and arms kicking in too fast. Good luck with it. If you've got any questions, feel free to contact me at any time as usual, and please keep me posted as to your progress. Well done.